Have you been wondering how to stop feeling overwhelmed by your life? Let's take that on today at Live on Purpose TV. As we talk about being overwhelmed, let's first get into the concept of head trash. This came from an idea that I picked up from Noah St. John. He was a guest on my podcast. You can link to the conversation I had with him down there in the description. Noah pointed out that we get trash in our head around certain topics or issues. Sometimes I refer to this as programming, where we create a story that doesn't necessarily serve us well, but it drives the show. Language, for example. We're having this conversation today in English. All right, did we decide to have it in English? Was it a choice? Or is it simply what we're programmed to do? Now, some of our viewers are not native English speakers, and maybe you're seeing subtitles for this video. That's a little different situation. You've been programmed with a different language. It's not that I grew up thinking I want to speak English my whole life. I was just programmed by my parents, my society, my culture in English. This is what I'm talking about. Programming is something that's much more subconscious. It's below the surface. We're not aware of it. We don't intentionally do it. And this happens in almost every aspect of life. So your work, your relationships, your relationship with money. In fact, that's the conversation I had with Noah St. John. He has a book called How to Get Rid of the Head Trash, your head trash, about money specifically. So just notice that this happens, and our programming then drives everything else. Overwhelm. You know, I've sometimes wondered, what would it be like if we could be perfectly whelmed? Nobody talks like that. Well, oh, how you doing? I'm whelmed, perfectly whelmed. We say underwhelmed and overwhelmed, but we're never perfectly whelmed. What would that look like? Kind of a strange concept. Overwhelmed usually means that there's more going on than we think we can handle, or that things are not happening according to our expectations and it's exceeding our capacity to actually deal with it. Go back to the programming for a minute. We're creating a story about being overwhelmed that comes from our programming, our experience, whatever it is. And we're running with that story, and it's affecting how we feel. I've said it before, you're never wrong about how you feel. How you feel is 100% consistent with the way your mind is processing your experience, and that is being driven by your programming. So I've got 4 steps for you about being overwhelmed and what we can do about it. And step number 1 is to write the story. Identify or clarify or write down the story around your being overwhelmed. Get it out in a place where you can actually look at it and evaluate it differently. So the story might sound something like this. I have too much to do. There are too many demands on my time and on my resources. I can't handle this thing that's happening at work or in my relationship. I feel overwhelmed. So the story behind it might take any of those forms. Identify it, tell it, write it down. Let's get clear about what the story is. Now, before I go to number 2, I had a colleague recently who shared with me an idea that ties right into this, and it has to do with movies. You know, when you go to a movie, and maybe it's a movie that involves some kind of danger or peril or suspense. And as you're sitting there, you feel the feelings associated with that condition. But how often do you go screaming out of the movie theater? You don't go screaming out of the movie theater. Why? Because your mind intervenes and says, dude, it's a movie. It's not real. You're watching a movie. You paid $8 for the popcorn. Stay in your seat. So your mind overrides that for you. You know that it's not real. You know that it's fake. You know that it's a movie. What this colleague shared with me is that we have mind movies. Mind movies that we're watching up here somewhere. Think about it. Most of the stuff that has you tied up in knots is either predicted or remembered. Predicted or remembered. You think about it. Everything right now is probably fine. The things that have you upset, anxiety is about what's going to happen or what you're predicting will happen. Depression is about what has already happened and you're remembering of that. Predicted or remembered, it's not here and now. So it's not real. It's a movie. It's a mind movie. It's something that I'm watching in my head. What if you don't enjoy the movie that you're watching? Well, get up and walk out, right? Or start a new movie. Vicki and I were sitting in the living room last night, started a movie, didn't like it, turned it off, started a different movie. Oh, how simple is that? Watch a different movie. So this brings us to number 2. Identify how this story or this movie is impacting you. This is simple because you know how you feel. Overwhelmed, right? How is this story about I have too much to do? There are too many demands on my time. I can't handle what's happening to me right now. How is that impacting you? Well, it probably has you feeling overwhelmed and upset and stressed, and you're not as productive as you normally are. And you get behind on things and you drop balls because you're just flustered, tipped over emotionally. How's it impacting your relationships? You come home and you kind of yell at your spouse or you kick the dog. It's probably not helping, right? But this is how it's impacting you. What about at work with your coworkers? Are you able to be as productive as you want to be? How is this impacting you? Get clear about that. That's step 2. Step 3, answer this question. Where would I be without this story? Without this movie playing in my mind? What would change? Where would I be without it? This is an illuminating experience, especially if you didn't realize that you have any choice in the matter. So as you imagine just taking that mind movie and moving it off of the screen of your mind, you're getting up and walking out of the movie basically. Or taking this story and saying, you know what? I'm setting that aside for a moment. Where would you be without it? Notice the level of peace and maybe excitement and energy that comes into your life because you're no longer watching the movie or packing the story around. Imagine that. Visualize it. Get clear about it. Now this leads us to the final step. Number 4, make a conscious choice. Do you have to stay with the movie? Maybe not. You know what? Until we see it as a choice, it's not. So the first 3 steps help us to see that, wow, maybe I have some choice in all of this. Maybe my feeling overwhelmed is secondary to a choice that I've made that I didn't even know I was making. Getting clear about what the story is, how it impacts us, what our life would be if we didn't have the story in our life, that opens up a whole new possibility that maybe we could opt out of that story, and as a result, we would stop feeling overwhelmed. We may even have exactly the same amount of things to do and the same amount of things waiting for us to accomplish or whatever, but the story being changed changes our entire experience of it. Kind of helpful, right? To understand that some of those things aren't even real. It's a mind movie. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, would you please share this with someone that you care about?